music and love music.
What's going on, people? You're locked into Big Tonne Presents. I'm Big Tonne, and today I'm joined by a hip hop collective from West London, Obscene Locals. How are we doing, lads? You good?
Check this out. It's the return of the determined alternative urban hip hop artist like the shadows on the.
I'm joined by Jim, who plays the drums. We've got Greg, the guitarist, 2-4, the bassist, and Matt, who is our MC vocalist for the group. So, how are we today, lads? You good, yeah? Cool. Good stuff. Yeah, so you've been together for about a year or so now, yeah?
Yeah, coming up to 2, I reckon.
Coming up to 2, yeah? 2 years. Yeah, so you met at uni. How did that come about?
Basically, when we started out, we went to tech music schools in Acton, and it was literally me and 2-4 on the bass course together. Jim was on the drum course, and we had Greg on the guitar course, and we literally, we didn't really get together for the first year, but when we started our degree at London College of Music in Ealing, that's when we kind of knew each other from the first year. And I wanted to start a hip hop band because I was kind of thinking, I was into my live music and stuff, but I wanted to do hip hop because I kind of like that urban sound, and I wanted to bridge the gap between the two sort of different music styles.
So you was like the mastermind behind all this?
So much the brainchild of this whole thing.
So was any of you doing things separately before you got into this band?
Yeah, I was in another band at the time.
You was in another band, yeah?
But the communications broke down, so now I'm just doing this.
Cool.
Like you're making it sound like you don't want to. But now me and Greg used to play together in a band, soul band.
Soul band, okay.
We did a few gigs, and that's how I knew Greg, because he was getting into his hip hop at the time, and it was a bit rare to find guitarists that really are dedicated to playing it.
There's a lot of guitarists that are quite into rock and blues and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
They don't tend to stray away from their comfort zone or whatever, so we're hip hop is a collective of every kind of style.
And obviously, like with hip hop as well, it's got a massive influence from like soul samples that you can then play live. And I know that's important to you guys. You said, I remember watching one of your videos, you said how important it is for you to, it's almost like playing live samples. So you've been with each other for about a year and a half. How's the journey been so far as a collective?
It started off a bit rocky.
What happened?
I don't know.
Inform the people.
Just bare fights, isn't it? Not enough groupies to go round. No, it was. I think when we started, we were just trying to find our feet and stuff. And these guys, we got together, and it was still a bit stop and start. You know, various reasons. Like family stuff going on and things like that. So it wasn't always rolling as quick as we liked. But I think just getting to know each other and like sharing influences, because we're all pretty different when it comes to music. Like Greg's got his kind of style.
Let's go along then. So like, what would say mainly is the type of music that's influenced yourself?
Playing wise, I'm into like a lot of Motown stuff.
Yeah.
Which kind of led to hip hop because of the samples. But apart from that, I used to be big into my rock, but I couldn't be far from it, to be honest.
Okay.
It's completely changed especially since I've been down in London. It's changed quite a bit.
Okay. Yourself?
Well, I get influenced by producers, really, like hip-hop producers like Pete Rock, Rick Rubin, who's just done loads of different stuff. Like, Rick Rubin's done started off Def Jam, but also done every Slayer album. And if you follow their career from the start to the finish, like Jay Diller's or DJ Premier's, they just go from, they work with loads of different artists and they progress as well, so you can see the history of music and how the beat has changed. And like guys now, if you look at Chris Daddy Dave and Questlove, from a drumming perspective, are trying to blend them two things together to bring it alive. So it's got strange on like sound, like bringing the sample with the timing, making the sound good and shit.
Yeah, but so?
I'd go Greg as well. I started off playing bass, so I'd say Motown definitely. I was brought up, my dad was really into reggae and rock and roll, so a bit diverse, like a lot of old rock and roll, a lot of reggae. When I was in secondary school, I started getting into hip hop, listened to a lot of Eminem, Tupac, just like really like 90s East Coast, that kind of thing. Then when I came to uni, I started listening to a lot more UK hip hop because I think it's important to kind of know where our movements come from. So I'd say rappers like Jest, Kalashnikov, Skinny Man, Roots Maneuver, MCs like that really influenced me. So yeah, that's I'm just trying to take all these styles and put it into this project.
Before I started playing bass, I was just into hip hop, like just straight up hip hop. I don't even care for like music. But when I started playing the bass, like I was playing those hip hop bass lines, but looked a bit deeper. I got into more influences like Motown, as these guys are into a bit more rock as well. Like. So it's a bit
cool. Yeah. Nice one. So you also entered Live and Unsigned. How did it go down?
You know what, right? That was when we was initially recording the EP, and that was like I literally approached the guys with the concept. I called it Quarter Life Crisis, and I was like, "Look, I got this concept. Let's sit down." And we worked out the music and stuff. And at the same time, we come across this competition, and I was like, "Let's give this a go as well." So we went along, and like it's cool. There's a lot of people we know that went, but overall, I thought it wasn't really like what we wanted to be. We kind of looked at it and was like, if we got through the first audition, they passed us. It's like come along to the semi-finals, I think it was, and it was like we looked at like the terms and conditions, and it's like sell this amount of tickets, bring this much publicity, and for a band that was just starting out, we was like, it's a bit too much, like. To ask, and we just kind of felt it was benefiting the sponsors more than ourselves. And we're not really anti-business, do you know what I mean? Like, it's cool to make money, whatever, but for us it was like, we just want to make the music we want to make, so let's just take this EP and make it and see where it goes. So when it come round to the next semi-finals, we didn't even bother going. We were just like, fuck it, like. So I mean, it was a good experience in itself, but overall probably not for us.
Still when it was so early in the development, we were open to trying anything really.
Yeah. Cool. Obviously, rock and hip hop. There's been a lot of crossover sounds. Like even going back to when Run DMC and Aerosmith. Then more recently, we had like Jay-Z, Linkin Park, and that sort of thing. I think you're really sort of creating this scene with another band who are doing well at the moment called Kings of City. I know you're good mates with them as well. So what kind of, do you think there's a gap in the market for bands like yourselves, like them, where there could be like this really big sort of scene of crossover sort of rock and hip hop music?
I think like live music's like the music scene in general is changing like all the time, and like live music's kind of making a comeback. So it's been like 10 years, maybe longer, than it's just been all produced music. So like live music's kind of making a comeback. It feels like guys like Kings of City and us were kind of on the edge of that, so we're kind of ahead a little bit. So we're just waiting for that to happen, maybe.
I think if you look at music 10 years ago, like 02, 03, there was a lot of R&B hip hop kind of sound being pumped out of the States. You had guys like Nelly, Ja Rule, all that kind of sound coming out. It was very produced. Obviously, like Eminem were doing their thing. Like the market was dominated by American urban artists.
It's quite predictable.
Yeah, and you didn't really have a strong UK scene. Then that kind of died down, and indie just blew up.
Indie took over. End of sort of the noughties, you had all your big artsy monkeys doing well in the charts as well.
And it was just like suddenly all that stuff before was just laughable. Like everybody I knew that I went to school with, like I used to MC to garage and stuff back in the day, and all my mates, like literally, like it was literally a case of them taking off their Adidas track tops and their Nike hats and just throwing on a trilby hat and like a polo shirt, and it's just kind of like, man, look at you guys just bandwagoning it. And I was just kind of like, that's cool, whatever. But I was like, I appreciate this live sound, this indie influence, but I kind of think like now it's kind of, there's a strong UK scene. Like I definitely want to be a part of that, but I think like I kind of like the indie scene still, the live music scene, and it's like years ago it was like you wouldn't get them two scenes mixing, but it's more and more acceptable now.
Yeah, it seems like there's room for everything nowadays.
I also think as well, like typically you had hip hop acts who used to go on stage and they just used to have DJ playing their instrumental. You go see a hip hop artist now, they've got a full band behind them. Everything has gone live, and artists are making more money off of their live concerts, gigs, than they are for their records that they're selling on iTunes for 79p. And as I was saying earlier about playing live samples, you covered Otis, which was obviously a big, massive hip hop track that loads of rappers have done. And then I came across your PR company, sent it over to me, and I was just like, what? I just thought no one would ever attempt sort of a live version of it. So yeah, how did that come about? How did the idea for making that track come about?
Well, when it first came out, it was just like, we should do it. No, when, what was it called? Ham came out. I was thinking, how can we do Ham?
Yeah, they had Ham first. That's when What's the Friend come out. I didn't really know about Otis, I knew about Ham, and you sent it to me.
You see the video, was like,
and I was just like, that's fucking big, like, and we was just like, it's the sample is just too much, like, for us to replicate that. Then
we come across Otis. And
yeah,
it's just like,
and we was just like, man, it's pretty much what we do, you know, soul music, Otis Redding, like, I mean, you know, I love Otis Redding's music, so I was like, we can do that. We got a guy, Carl D, on it.
I was going to say, yeah, the singer, the vocalist was
man.
special.
We known him,
known him since I was a kid, like, he's from White City as well.
Okay.
So we brought him on it, and we was just like, when we first sat down to try, it was kind of like, we was in the rehearsal room and I was like, yeah, I've got this idea. Like, I kind of worked out the bass line. I sent it to you, and like you picked it up and you're like, oh yeah, like these are the right notes, whatever. And then we took it to these guys, and we were like playing out for it for a bit, and it's kind of there, and we was just like, doesn't sound right. And we went to Carl, and literally we just walked into a studio in Acton, and it's literally just like, he listened to it for a bit, then he just started singing. We got him to record it, and it's just a case of taking that and then just playing along to that, and that's pretty much. We just wanted to do it because, you know, like the response from it from the hip hop community like was just massive, and we was like, if we want to bridge the gap between what we do and what they're doing, we need to show them that we can do what they do. You know what I mean?
So yeah, speaking of sort of like more about target audience, who would you say sort of are you mainly aiming at? Because I know you obviously want to appeal to hip hop fans because you're a hip hop collective, but it's also very sort of non-hip hop in the sense it's live, and there's a lot of rock elements and other sort of not pure. It's not pure hip hop. So yeah, what sort of audience would you like to say this would appeal to? Yeah, you've been very quiet over there in the corner.
Yeah. Anybody really?
Yeah. I guess that's what you want to do. Is
like people that like have like a knowledge of music, or like musicians themselves and appreciate it. Anybody just has a love for music. You know, anybody really.
I think like what we were saying at the start when Greg was like, I like playing Motown. You know, you've got your producer influences, I've got my hip hop influences, and so on. It's kind of like. Very often, like I tell you what, I was on the train the other day going to Ealing, and the ticket inspector comes up to me. I have my bass with me, and he says to me, "What do you play?" I was like, "Oh, I play bass." And he's like, "Oh, cool. Like, what's your favourite bands?" We got talking about music. I started talking about Motown, and the geezer turned around and he says to me, "I think it's great that musicians like you don't get involved in all that hip hop shit." And like, this is a very old.
Yeah, this is exactly what I'm saying.
And I was just like, you're lucky you're a fucking ticket inspector, mate, because otherwise like, I'd say to you what I think. But I was just like, alright, cool, man, cool. But for us, I think I want to change people that have opinions like that. Because you know, you got like a diverse bunch of musicians here, come from all different backgrounds, and the fact that we can get on and make music, like we just want people to be like, look, there's something for everyone. So what you're saying, anyone really, we want anyone to hear our music and like it basically.
Try and open a few minds out there.
Exactly.
Good stuff. Thank you for obviously letting me come by today. Is there any last words from you guys that you'd like to tell your fans or people watching? Check us out.
Yeah, man.
So where can people find out your music? Any links?
Facebook,
Twitter.
anything, any social networking site / Obscene Locals, like SoundCloud, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, MySpace.
Just Google Obscene Locals.
Just Google Obscene Locals, innit? We got a few things coming up. We got a track with Fourth Kind, produced by Soundwave, coming out soon. Soundwave, send me that final mix. And we'll have a video for that soon as well. We're shooting it next week.
Good
so
stuff.
yeah, man, it's all there. Just Google us.
I'm not going to go along the line and shake all your hands, but it's been an absolute pleasure meeting you guys. Hope you all do well for 2012. I know you've got a lot of live performances and gigs, and you're going to be very busy. So watch out. Big hip hop crossover band from West London. Over and out, Big Tonne.
That's how we're moving. Obscene Locals, Otis, and I know you ain't heard it like that. Yeah, this is how we're doing it. Real recognize real.